People, deluded. I'm back again. I got Harry in the building. Obviously, we've defeated Atletico Madrid and Fulham, and we're looking towards Crystal Palace. And with us being quite frankly in good spirits, it's nice to have balanced fans. Now, the first thing I'll say before I bring Harry in is make sure you're subscribed to his platform. It's in the title. We did a live show on his platform, and more than anything, I had a bit of fun. Like he always comes with some great questions. I don't want to spoil it, so go over there and check it out. What are you saying, Harry? Though, man, you good?
Yeah, all good, man. All good. Buzzing. It's been a really good period for Arsenal, isn't it? We're enjoying it. We're not playing at times the most glamorous football. Like I felt like the game against Fulham was a little bit underwhelming, I suppose, in terms of the performance. But it's not an excuse. But I've come to kind of expect that after international breaks. I always think it's quite difficult to know what you're going to get when you return from an international break. So for me, the result was of paramount importance when we got that. And then we followed it up with, a brilliant display and victory over Atletico Madrid. So, yeah, feeling good.
Before we get into Atletico and a couple of other talking points, I want to kind of ask some overview questions. The first one I want to ask you is like, obviously we're football fans, we're not coaches. We all see the game differently. Me and you agree on a lot of things, disagree on a lot of other things, but I think everyone can see Arsenal's a good football club. And on one hand, we've seen our team win trophies. Arteta and the boys keep talking about trophies. Evidently, we want to win silverware. But though I find myself, and this is why I'm kind of asking you, as much as I'm saying keep calm and it's a long season, I am also getting excited. It's like, should we get excited? Because it is October going November, but it does feel like things are finally how we wanted it when we moved to the stadium. We've got Berta doing what he's doing, the manager's doing what he's doing, we've got depth and some good things individually. As I said earlier, people check out the stream we just did on H's platform, because we feel that we're saying all of this and there's still several gears to go up. So it's like, do we begin to dream? Do we keep our feet on the floor? Like, how do we, like, yeah, man, like, yeah.
It's a hard one. It's a really hard one. And I'll tell you why, because we all want it so bad. And when you want something so bad, right, you will feel a level of anxiety that probably doesn't reflect what the actual situation is.
Exactly.
So if you look at our squad, it's strong enough. There's no excuses anymore, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of what we have at our disposal player-wise. But at the same time, there's an anxiety that clicks in, because that actually, even at times before when you felt that we were ready, we weren't. And we failed and we fell short. And sometimes you can look back at those scenarios and you can come up with reasons, and you can say, well, for example, last season, you can blame it on the injuries if you want. And that can give you some solace, and it can help you to process, those emotions as to, why did we miss out? What you got a reason. It's like if you hear of if a crime affects you and you know who did it, you can start to find some closure, can't you? Whereas until you get to that point, you can't. I found myself watching the game the other night, legitimately thinking we can win more than one trophy this season. Like we could win more than one trophy this season. But then I sort of thought, hold on a minute, what am I doing here? Like, why am I saying that? Why am I saying that? Like, why am I putting myself potentially through that? And it's not because I don't believe that we're good enough. When I check myself, when I say that, I do believe we're good enough. As I've just said, I don't think there's any excuse now. I think the squad is there. But it's football. You never know what's going to happen. You can't predict things. And I do have to remind myself that we're not even into November yet. And if we're in this same position in February, March time, then let's have these conversations. And, you're well within your rights to believe. Right now, there's still too much football to be played, and there's too many things that could still go wrong. And that's why I'm being a little bit more reserved in that opinion. And even though I felt it at the time, I actually said to myself I wasn't going to say it out loud, and I've done it about 4 times now since the game. You can't help it because you're excited. That's what it's all about.
Beyond the obvious, I think I know why you'd say that, and I know why I'd agree with it, but for someone that's just heard you for the first time, or like maybe disagrees or doesn't know what you're referring to, why do you believe we can win more than one trophy, let alone one?
Because we've got the depth to do it. We've got the quality to do it. We've got the desire to do it, I think. And because I just think that, we've been building for such a long time for this. Like, I don't think we were ever building just to go and win an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup. And I know that there'll be a lot of people out there that say, as long as Arteta wins something this season, it's all right. And look, I'm one of the biggest Arteta supporters out there. I get a lot
Join
of
the club.
I get a lot of stick for that. You know, people say, "Oh, it's just because you do things around the club," and yet, no, man, I could say whatever the hell I want to say within reason.
That's what annoys me about when people, because I think everybody deserves a fair trial. Yeah, you're
Hmm.
actually, I think I have you down as balanced. That's why I like speaking to you. You give your plaudits for players where due and the manager, and you call out nonsense really and truly. Like January, I think. I remember watching the stream with you last January on last January, and you was very critical on the club. Quite frankly, not signing a striker, not bringing in body. So I think that's wrong
And
on your
guess
part.
guess what? I was
Narrative.
really, really critical. And guess what? I was in the press conference the next day. Guess what? I was really critical of Noni Madueke when we signed him because
Exactly.
I didn't think it was the right signing. And guess what? First game of the season, first home game of the season, who did the club bring over to do radio interviews with us? Noni Madueke. So it turns out that you can say stuff without it sort of really harming your career. You can't sit there and say F this guy and F that guy, and I would never do that anyway because
That's
that's
what they
not me.
want.
But that's what some people, for whatever reason, want. I think that we've got all the tools to go on and win multiple trophies because for me this project was built with bigger things in mind than just picking up a cup. And if we did win a Carabao Cup, I'd be delighted. If we did win an FA Cup, I'd be delighted. But I've got my sights set higher. And I feel like we now have the capacity to be able to go and achieve one of those, what I regard as a top tier trophy. But also at the same time, we can pick up a League Cup. We can pick up an FA Cup. You know, when I was thinking about it the other night, I fell into the trap, DG, of thinking we could win the Premier League and the Champions League. Now, that is a big ask. That is
That's
a
the
big
dream.
bloody ask. That is the dream. But it's not impossible. It's not impossible. And that speaks to where we're at and where we've come in terms of the building and the development of the squad.
So then let me ask you this then, like Premier League and Champions League, which one do you think we're more likely to win? Obviously, you're not a fortune teller, but if he was a betting man,
It's hard because I feel like the Champions League being a cup competition by nature that makes it easier. But then I also think that you're going to play against the best teams in Europe, and that makes it harder because you're not going to play your Brentfords and your Burnleys, with all due respect to those sides. So I think the way we defend, I think we're better suited to winning a cup, personally. But that's a really hard question, man. What about you? I feel like the way we defend and the way we're able to kind of, in some people's opinion, smash and grab, I think that sets you up for cup success more than it does for league success. But we could win either or both. Like, and
hopefully,
again,
both.
yeah, maybe I'm getting carried away, man. But I don't know. Champions League feels, maybe again that's me being biased because I want the Champions League more than anything.
I'm happy you said that because I actually want the Champions League. I think I don't want to say it's more of an achievement winning the Premier League over the Champions League, but it feels like we've had that over. I feel like it kind of quote unquote would be just because we've been in the Premier League shouts under Arteta or in these last 3-4 years or getting over the line more than the Champions League. Champions League's been like a breath of fresh air. Like we remember the quarterfinals in which we lost to Bayern Munich, but we took some, as much as you can take positives from a defeat. We never got embarrassed. It was fine margins that went against us. Obviously, we know how last season panned out. It's a weird one, and I don't feel there's any rights and wrongs because you make a great point about us being good defensively. I do think it's a bit of a culture shock to Europe. I feel football coaches and managers and all them things in this country, they do give Arsenal and Arteta their credit away from traditional media outlets. But I do think we get more plaudits abroad, didn't it? I think everybody's quite complimentary. I think Luis Enrique was when we went out. I think Simeone was the other day. I think there's several ones of those. I just look at the PSG game last season or the two legs, and I know you can't rewrite history, but I remember Mikel Arteta spoke about like we've timing is the best thing. And I think timing was the thing that kind of went against us last season in that it was romantic to beat Real Madrid. But then you get into that unromantic stage against PSG. And I thought two things. I think looking back, obviously Partey was suspended. We had to rejig the side and we looked like a team that rejigged the side. And then I look at the second leg and I think, oh, you know what? first 20 minutes, if we had a striker or some players that could take their chances, you probably, put the game in a different kind of realm, to which obviously, as you said earlier, we've got the depth to kind of do that. There's some heavy hitters in the Champions League. I don't think we're the biggest and baddest, but I definitely feel if we play PSG again, we could give them more of a game. I don't know like what Real Madrid would be like with Xabi Alonso, but I just think we could give everyone a game. I just don't know in the crunch time moments. Now, obviously, look in the Prem, naturally, you got 38 games, 19 home games. You've got more like bites of the cherry type of thing. And
Yeah.
I do feel there is a correlation. Like City would be that, like, you have to kind of dominate your domestic league and then you can kind of puff out chest in Europe. But it would mean more for me to win the Champions League than the Prem. I want either or, if not both. I share your point in that we're not building for an FA Cup or a League Cup, but rightly so. Some fans do sit there and say a trophy is a trophy. We've got no divine right to win. These players have been starved of silverware, so why not go and do that? Which I'm all for that. I do want to ask you, yeah, should we be shocked about, before we get into like, what went right and all those things about Atletico Madrid? We beat them 4-0, if anyone's living under a rock. Should we be surprised that we put in that level of performance and got that result? Because we've had that again, we beat PSG in the league phase, we beat Atletico, we beat Real Madrid twice. Even games that we haven't won, we've more than equipped ourselves under Mikel Arteta in the last 2 years, 3 even in the Champions League, which is a far cry from the early Emirates days. So should we still be shocked and surprised? Like, do we need to start acting like we've been here before? Like, we're part of this now? Because I do think it's shocked me more than like I should be, if that makes sense.
It's hard because I feel like with Atletico Madrid, we maybe fell into the trap in the lead up of this game of going, this is the Atletico Madrid of a few years back, and it isn't anymore. Okay, that's the reality. I'm not trying to diminish what Arsenal did the other night or take away from the achievement, but this is not vintage peak Simeone Atletico Madrid, right? And we got to acknowledge 100%. That, and we got to understand that. I thought until we scored, we showed glimpses of being able to kind of pull them apart and open them up. And we certainly had a lot of joy down our right-hand side, their left-hand side, where I thought Hanko was having it handed to him by Bukayo Saka for large periods. Large periods. So there was enough there for me to be encouraged by. But I do think what we've been good at over the years, and this goes back even to the Arsene Wenger days, really, was once we get that first goal, we can really overwhelm you and we can really strangle you and cause you to capitulate. I don't think a peak Atletico Madrid under Simeone do that. I think they're smart enough and they're streetwise enough to disrupt that. So the fact that they allowed that to happen, it highlights to me that they're not quite at that level that they used to be. But either way, like, you can only beat what's in front of you. And we've won incredibly convincingly. We've won 3 out of 3 Champions League games. I know Bilbao was one we were expected to win, but going away there is not easy. Olympiacos, they've been a tricky team for us specifically in recent years. Yep. So you don't want to dismiss what that is in terms of overcoming that hurdle mentally. So I don't want to, maybe we were a little bit shocked by the Atletico result. I think it was the nature of the victory. I wasn't shocked that we beat them, but I was shocked that we were able to, once we got that first goal, essentially step on them.
Flurry of goals in the second half.
Yeah. And that for me was encouraging, because at a time when people keep saying we don't score enough from open play, we can't do this, we can't do that. I know, again, we were sort of leaning into set pieces again, but we've battered a top team in Europe. So you should always enjoy that, I think.
You've touched on set pieces, for the obvious, people. And it is a weird one in that going into this game, I said 2-2. I said you're more likely to see a 2-2 draw than a 0-0. Because I did, like you said there, I knew that it weren't the same Atletico, but I thought they were of a higher level, if that makes sense, than what we saw. Now, maybe they had an off day. Maybe we're just that good. But I didn't think they're the same Atletico. I was expecting a lot more from them in an attacking sense. Big up our team for how we defend. But I was expecting a bit more. Apart from that little moment of madness from David Raya, and obviously where Alvarez has hit the bar, we weren't kind of troubled. But when everybody thinks of Atletico Madrid in their heyday and whatnot, generational hate along that I did, I think, when they played Liverpool at Anfield. I loved it. They're shit houses. They're great at set pieces. Kind of everything that we're seeing in our team, they're kind of on that. But the narratives were different. You know, we get criticized for set pieces and beat dark arts and throw-ins and dead ball scenarios and all of that kind of jazz, and they're praised for it. Now, my question isn't actually with Atletico, it's just purely when one team does it, and there's plenty of others, when one team does it, there's all plaudits, they're all praised for it. When it's us, it's almost like you're trying to shame us into not being good at set pieces or being good defensively. When we go back a few years, you used to get onto us for that. What do you think of the narrative regarding that?
I think like it's just people just looking for something to chat about, to be honest with you. I feel like football analysis has gone so far from football now that it is, you know, what can we have an argument about when actually like and this is my frustration with sort of, you know, when I watch Match of the Day or Sky Sports' coverage after a game now, it's like I want you to tell me something from a footballing perspective that maybe I didn't spot because I don't have that experience or
Yeah, because
know-how
we've
like
never
you
been
do,
footballers.
because we've not been footballers. Like I want you to talk to me about something that maybe I haven't seen. I want to come away, and I know, you know, he done lots of things wrong, obviously, but that's what I used to feel I got from Andy Gray back in the day on Sky Sports. Not
Legend.
not excusing what he said
Yeah,
or
purely
what he
from his
did.
footballing
From as
opinions
a
and nous.
football pundit, that was a football pundit for me. You know, and I used to come away from watching the games and I used to think, yeah, that, you know, that's a really good point. I'll look out for that next time. I never thought of that. Whereas now it's like, how can I be viral on social media? What
Yeah,
can I say that's going to make a clip that can go around and infuriate half of the world and have the other half of the world laughing? Some
his
people are
engagement.
into that, and I do like that lighter side of the coverage. Like I really enjoy what they do on CBS, for example. A lot of the time, I do. I find it
Jamie Carragher
entertaining.
behaved himself the last week or whatever it
There
was.
you go. There you go. Like I do enjoy that, but I also want a bit more analysis, and I don't think we get that so much anymore. And so, you know, I you listen to podcasts and you watch YouTube channels, and you go in search of it elsewhere. And so the whole footballing experience, I think, is just different now to what it used to be.
I want to ask you now about the coaching stuff. Just got completely off topic. Again, you're not on the you're not, you know, a coach. You're not in the dressing room and all of that. Yeah, but Gabriel Heinz, obviously, you have been at press conferences and you're an Arsenal fan. You've seen him on the sidelines. As much as you could kind of know, do you think he's made much of a difference? What have you made of him? Because I did think there was a moment I was watching the game, like just before we scored, it's like he had Arteta's arm, and it's like he scored, and it's like he was doing all of that, and yeah, man, like him and Nicholas Hover. I'm not gonna say they don't get their credit, but theirs just as important. But what have you made of his addition?
Yeah, I mean, from the outside looking in, it looks like a good one, but it's important to stress that it is from the outside looking in. Like I don't know the ins and outs. I don't understand exactly what his role looks like. Like, what does he do on a day to day? I couldn't tell you, but he feels like a bit of a hype man. He feels like someone who's incredibly passionate and loud and all the rest of it. I felt like when we scored the other night, when Martinelli scored, I sort of glanced down at the bench and there was some kind of moment between him and Mikel Arteta where, again, I'm just guessing, but it felt like something that those two had planned, something that
Like I
those two
told
had
you so, it was gonna
discussed,
work.
yeah, had come off in that moment. And I don't know if it was what Lewis Skelly did. I don't know if it was Martinelli's finish. I don't know. But there was something between them that kind of suggested to me that something in that goal was something that they'd either talked about or worked on. And that was it coming to fruition. So, you know, he brings a fresh pair of eyes. He brings fresh ideas. He's played at the top level. He played at Man United when they were brilliant. He played for Real Madrid, you know,
As well
Argentine
as his country,
international.
yeah.
And I also feel like at the beginning, when he came in, I was a bit like, this is a really good friend of Mikel Arteta's. And I don't know if that's a good thing. But I also, if you sort of analyze it and flip it around the other way, you could make the case that actually being friends with Mikel Arteta, knowing him the way he does, it might give him even greater confidence in pushing back on stuff and challenging him. And I always think that's so important. Like, I rate Mikel Arteta. I think he's done a great job,
But
but
no
he
man's
doesn't
eye
know
on
it
him.
all. No one knows it all. And you need people around you that when you come up with a weird and wacky idea, maybe are going to go, yeah, but why? Why do you
Yeah.
want to do that? Push back on it, challenge it. And I think that Gabriel Heinze, just knowing what he was like as a player, having seen all those clips of him as a manager over in South America, losing his mind, I think he's the type of guy that won't be able to hold it in. He will combust. He will tell you what he thinks. And I think that's a good thing.
I'd love to see like be a fly on the wall sometimes and actually see arguments because Arteta's quite the passionate man. I if I had to put money, I'd say Heinz would probably beat up Arteta, but I'd imagine like the drama and the passion, and it's all you need that stuff. And I don't know about you, Harry, but one thing I find with football here is it's a bit weird in that I don't want to, I want to pick my words wisely, but it is hyper masculine. It is a lot of testosterone. There is a lot of emotions. And, I think if people are on a training ground, and do you know how many fights you probably see? You probably see so many fights, so many, like the Lacazette Cedric thing, that probably happens. I very much doubt Arsenal players are there doing, or any players are going kumbaya, because as much as I hope everybody's friends and stuff, we're not here to be friends. We're here to kind of win stuff. So it'd be interesting to see. I hope he's still working with Miles Lewis Skelly. Yeah, it was Miles Lewis Skelly. I remember in preseason, like there was clips coming out. So I do want to see Miles Lewis Skelly kind of improve defensively. So then what did you make of the Atletico Madrid game in the first half? Because we know, like you said, the flurry of goals came in, set pieces and all of those things. What did you make in the first half? Because for me, I think we started well. I think we competed. I think we were the dominant side. I think we earned the right to win. Not going to sit here and say we could have scored. I knew we were scoring 3-4. But it made me think of the Newcastle game, bro, in that if for me to go to the next level now, I feel not that we can score 4 goals in a half all the time, but that's the next step. Like, turn that domination, put that same scoreline, do that in the first half. But like, what did you make of the first half?
The first half was interesting because I thought there were flashes of Arsenal looking really, really good. There was a few moments where we were able to move the ball forward really quickly and early into the right places. We had that Eze effort that come back off the bar, obviously deflection. I felt like Rice should have done more with the rebound.
Can't believe he missed that, bearing in mind the similar one against West Ham, but it's all good.
Exactly. Right? We had an opening where Saka came down the right after Zubimendi won the ball back, and he played it square to Martinelli, who really never should have been offside. He should trust in his pace. And that's where maybe he's a little bit over keen and over exuberant at times. So I'll be honest, I went in at halftime thinking we've done all right here. Bit annoying that we haven't got the goal, but I was confident that we would create more chances. And I can't always say that's been the case when I've watched Arsenal recently. Like, I can't always say that I've walked in at halftime when it's 0-0 or when we're not in front going, it's fine because we will create enough. I've panicked at times. I've been nervous. I didn't feel that the other night though, because the spaces were there and we had figured out how to exploit them. It was just missing that final touch. The only worry in a scenario like that is, does Simeone also recognize where you're getting in, and does he go and change it at halftime and plug those gaps? In which case, then what you were doing in the first half becomes null and void, and you've got to go and find another way. That was my worry. But again, I feel like this team are much more flexible than they have been in years gone by. You look at the bench and you've got players that you can bring on. Waneri, Trossard, you can bring something
ridiculous,
very, very different on. Even Mikel Merino for a goal. And you're going, well, if he does change it, we've got solutions. So we'll be fine. I was relaxed, but I could see why there were probably some people that weren't.
I can understand not being relaxed. I can understand being relaxed. That's what I mean. For the next step, I feel goals change games at any given period. And I'm more, maybe it's PTSD, but it's obviously not the same. But I've seen us dominate teams, dominate first halves, have a bunch of possession and stuff. Teams get one opportunity, bang, the game's flipped on its head. So there's always things that we can kind of do better. But like you said, I think we started well in the game. I think we went into halftime. I was of the same. I was like, I was of the same, but I was a bit different, Harry, in that I would say I agree with everything you said, but the only caveat is I just don't know if we're going to get a goal, if that makes sense. I just don't know if it's going to happen. But, the floodgates opened. We did what we kind of needed to do in it. So, yeah, it is kind of what it is. I wanted to ask you, purely at set piece deliveries and free kicks and things of that ilk. Yeah, that stuff. Because I know you know what I'm saying, but people in the chat might hear what I'm saying and think it's a bit mad. Purely at dead balls and deliveries and free kicks and all of that, yeah. Is Declan Rice the best in the world?
He's up there at the moment, isn't he? He's up there at the moment. And I'm not even sure that Declan Rice on a technical level is up there with the very, very best in the world. So that sounds weird to me. Like to not be up there with the great technicians of the game. And he's a player that I think is much better on the physical side of things than he is on the technical side of things. And obviously he's got the heart and desire and all that stuff. To then see him deliver free kicks the way he does is mad to me. But
ridiculous.
There's no doubt about it, man. The way he has taken on that role of sort of chief free kick / corner deliverer, it's been amazing. And it's a string to his bow that I don't think gets talked about enough. We talk about the routines. We talk about Gabriel being the absolute beast that he is. But Declan Rice has... he's really kind of stepped up in that sense. I mean, did you see that coming? Because when we signed him, that wouldn't have been on my Declan Rice bingo card. I got to be honest.
My guy, hell no. Like when we signed him, the only thing I would say that I kind of not even expected, I just thought, you know what, Declan Rice, I don't think you're gonna. I think you're gonna. I thought you was gonna play as a six, but I don't think it was gonna be the all action kind of typical Premier League number six. You're flying into tackles, etc. I knew there'd be a bit of a change because Arteta's obviously from the same kind of school as Pep, where the six is like your link man, innit? In terms of set pieces, in terms of all the clutch moments, in terms of it's a bit mad, but I would describe him as a box-to-box kind of complete midfielder. And it sounds mad because, like you said, I don't think he's amazing technically and he's the best midfielder I've ever seen, but his technical level is high. He can contribute in all phases. He does have that talismanic kind of trait where he wants to put the team on his back and stand up to be counted. He has chipped in with some goals. I actually am it's a bit mad because he's not an 8 that I like on paper, but he is in that. He wins the ball high up the field. He runs in behind. He's the horse, as they call him, in it. So I do think he's becoming a complete midfielder. And I don't want to go over the Zubimendi stuff because people make sure you subscribe to Harry. We did a good chat. But I think them two is what I've wanted to see. Like, I finally see my midfield being a bit completed in that there's times where Zubimendi is going to be higher than Rice. Rice is going to be higher. And I do think a lot of the time since Rice has been here, he's had to hold the hand of his midfield partner, like even Thomas Partey, like you've played Sunday League. If you run forward as a midfielder, it's not that you don't believe in your teammates, but in the back of your mind, wow, like he ain't really got the legs. I don't really want to get kind of caught out here. And I think Zubimendi provides him with something different. Speaking of something different, you mentioned Martinelli, you touched on Miles Lewis-Skelly. Technically, that is our second choice left-hand side at this moment in time. Now, I'm not going to ask you about depth. What do you feel for Martinelli and obviously Miles Lewis-Skelly? Because I've said on your platform, if there's one position I don't care about, it's left back. Cool if you want to play Calafiori, if you want to play Miles Lewis-Skelly, if you want to play Hincapié, I really don't care. You're all great, you're all good. I want stuff like this. But where are you at with those two performances?
Yeah, I mean, Martinelli, I think, has really kind of benefited from the change in role within the squad. There isn't that reliance on him. There isn't that, need necessarily for him to be the match winner all the time, which I think suits him. He's taken some of the pressure off, and I think he's rediscovered some confidence as a result of that, and as a result of things going well. And they're going well because he's coming on, he's been brought on at the right times and in the right game states, and that is really benefiting him. Think about when he came on at Athletic Bilbao. It was the right game state. We were slowing down a little bit in terms of what we were producing, and there was spacing behind. And on comes Gabriel Martinelli. He's like roadrunner at the time where everybody else is knackered, and he makes the difference. So I think that's really, really benefiting him. But I also think the way we're playing is benefiting him as well. And it's benefiting Saka as well. Because there's been times in the last couple of weeks where I've looked at Saka and he might not score, but I'm going, he's unplayable at the moment. Fulham, like you can't 100%. Stop him going past you. Fulham, even the other night against Atletico, you couldn't stop him. And that was because we kept creating 1v1s for him. And I felt like where we were a little bit out of ideas in terms of creativity, just as a team on the whole, we started to put both of those guys into situations where they'd receive the ball in wide areas and they'd have 2-3 bodies around them. Now, Bukayo Saka is still good enough at times to punish you. Martinelli isn't. That doesn't mean he's not a great player. He's got other attributes. He's
just not a strength of his.
He's just not a strength of his. He's not cute. He's not got guile. He's not any of those things. He is a direct nuisance roadrunner type that will be so intense, and his intensity is what catches you out. And if he plays 90 minutes of every single game, that intensity level, it drops. Whereas playing the role he's playing today means that when he comes on, or if he starts a game having not started the previous two, I said it when we were talking earlier, his energy bar is at 100. So he can burn 100% of energy in the space of 20 minutes. When you ask him to do that, the intensity level is going to be off the chart, and a level that nobody really around him is going to be able to handle. And that's what his superpower is. So I'm really pleased with him. And Lewis-Skelly, man, like for me,
ridiculous.
It must have been so difficult to start this season as the second choice when you've done so much last season, but to kind of just get your head down and get on with it. And then when you get a chance, you come in and you take them the way he has, I think is phenomenal. And it speaks to the maturity and the self-belief that the young man has. And let's not pretend that Arteta don't trust him, because he's picked him in 2 Champions League games out of 2 now.
Exactly.
So it's not like that's
Only played him against Madrid last year in PSG, whether he had to or not.
You could argue that the Champions League is a harder competition than the Premier League if you wanted to make that case. In which case, throwing him into those games also shows implicit trust in him. Calafiori's been great, and Calafiori's kept his position because he hasn't put a foot wrong, and rightly so. But Lewis Skelly's still getting opportunities and will get opportunities because with Calafiori, there'll always be that risk of injury and that worry about injury. So, yeah, I think they're both in great places. And I actually think in a lot of ways, these roles that they're playing now kind of suits them. And with MLS, when you take a big step forward, it's easy to go, oh, actually not playing every week now means you've taken a step back. But you're 18 years old. And actually you being the second choice left back at Arsenal, who are trying to
England
win it all,
international
and
an
England international. Exactly. That should be still something that you're very, very proud of.
I got to ask you then, who do you think's better? I know they've got different qualities, and I've said I don't really care who plays left back, but who do you think is better, and who do you think is more switched on defensively as well? Because that's one somebody asked me that, and I can't answer.
Of Calafiori and MLS
and Miles Skelly, yeah.
I think Calafiori's a better 1v1 defender, but that's because he's a defender.
Yeah,
and
he's
been
actually
brought
a defender,
up.
yeah.
He's been brought up as a centre back, and he's been brought up through the Italian system, right? So, defending is obviously very, very important. But I think Lewis Skelly's a bit more disciplined in his positioning. I know he likes to go roaming, and we like to see him pop up in those central areas, but I feel like he's better at kind of realizing when, actually too much is too much, and I need to get back in my position.
Calafiori's such a free spirit.
And he creates chaos.
Makes no sense.
Against low blocks and against a lot of teams, that will work, and that's absolutely fine. But there are some games where I look at Calafiori and I'm like, mate, what are you doing? I remember, I've probably told you this before, I remember doing the PSG game in the league phase last season at Emirates Stadium, and I was commentating on the game. And I remember looking down at my notes over and over again. I'm like, where the hell is Ricardo Calafiori playing? Like, there were times where he was playing as a 10, and there were times where he
just
playing
goes
as an
wherever
8.
he wants.
He just does what he wants.
And he does it well.
And we got caught out that night, by the way, a couple of times when Hakimi came down the right-hand side because we had no left back. So there are downsides to it. But I remember in the press conference after the game saying to Mikel Arteta, did you instruct Ricardo Calafiori to roam that much? Was that from you, or is that him just doing it off of his own back? And he said, I can't control him. He does what he wants. He sort of joked saying he does what he wants. And that kind of brought it to light to me that, this free spirit thing that we see from Ricardo Calafiori, I'm sure the manager enables it, but it is really something that comes from him.
And it's like a trade-off, isn't it? Like you said, like he could roam in the 10 up front. He scored one of the best disallowed goals, I feel, this season. That gives you a lot. But the trade-off is you are going to get caught out. I think some people fail to understand that, and you can criticize that. But football is a trade-off. Even if we played blisteringly attacking football, high lines, the trade-off is we're going to get caught out defensively. A bit like the best example is probably Barcelona, if that makes sense. And I think the funny thing is, I know Mikel Arteta is known as a conservative manager in that, but if you've got your left back running around doing everything, that is quite a risky manager to me, but it doesn't fit the narrative. And, broadly, what you just said there, it made me think, where you look at Timber and Calafiori, it's like we're getting, not that anything's necessarily changed widespread with our fullbacks, but we're getting a lot more in an attacking sense out of our fullbacks, especially when you consider mid and low blocks and things of that kind of ilk involved, people. You know what? I want to ask you two questions, but to ask you the next question, I have to ask you this. Two players, if you could only pick two players, if you had to do like player of the season so far, like two names.
Probably Zubimendi, one of them. And then I would go with Big Gabby.
Big Gabby. Okay, so you went with Big Gabby and Zubimendi. I would have gone with Calafiori and Timber. I only asked you.
You know what? Your choices are absolutely fair as well. Absolutely fair. I wouldn't argue against them.
Because that's the broader thing I wanted to ask you. Yeah, it's like, if you were to look at Arsenal right now, why do you feel it would more, like you said, some people might even say Rice, like you said Zubimendi, and like you said Big Gabby, I said Timber and Calafiori. Why do you think it's like the defenders and the midfielders are not quite the attackers? Like why do you think we're not getting, like, we're not singing the praises of our attackers as much? It's not that they're playing bad, but they're not really, if that makes sense.
I just think it's undeniable that Arsenal's biggest strength right now is their defensive solidity.
Mm,
And so you are gonna turn to those players naturally. I think if we were scoring tons and tons of goals, then I think you're going to turn around and you're going to focus on attackers because your bias is going to kick in. I
mm,
just think now when we're coming away from games like the Fulham game, like the West Ham game, we're coming away from those games going, we're not conceding any shots on target. That's the big primary takeaway.
true.
And because of that, that is going to skew your view on who's playing really well and who's not. I think obviously with attackers, you're going to measure them on goals and assists and contributions in the final third. With defenders, you're going to measure them on clean sheets. You're going to measure them on solidity. And for me, as much as Arsenal have done okay in attack, I think that the standout performing department, if you like, is the defense. So that's
Yeah.
why I go that way.
So then, like, backing off that, yeah. What have you made of Eze and Gyökeres? Because if I'm honest, and this is a safe space because we're all Arsenal fans, and this is why I like having you on the platform because, like, you can have these conversations. If I'm honest, it's not that Eze or Gyökeres have been bad, but I think Eze is kind of going under the radar. Not that he's playing poorly, but we need a bit more from you because of Gyökeres. He's probably the most talked about player on the planet at the moment. What have you made of those two, especially their performances against Madrid?
Yeah, with Gyökeres, I have been a bit underwhelmed, but I've seen him really putting it in physically. I see him get his reward the other night with a very lucky first goal, but that was the type of goal that you get because you've been putting a shift in and you're getting
Exactly.
rewarded for it. So, with him, I've seen an upward trajectory at least. So I have been a bit underwhelmed, but I'm willing to chill on that one because I can see that the direction of travel is the right direction at least. With Eze, I agree with you. I have been underwhelmed by him. I've seen flashes, I've seen glimpses, I've seen moments, but I feel like when he's playing in that central area, and that's obviously where he's playing quite a bit now in
And
the
this is what
absence
everyone
of
cried
Martin
about, where they
Odegaard,
wanted him to play as well.
which is what everyone demanded they wanted to see. I feel like he's not involved in the game as much as I'd like him to be. And I did a bit on my pod the other day, and I can't quite work out sort of where the balance is here. So I think in part that's because he wants to be in that area to influence matches.
Mm,
And so he feels like that's the right place to be. I'm also wondering if it's a bit of instruction. Is it
probably.
stay central because you're helping, along with Gyökeres, create space for Saka and Martinelli or whoever's playing on the flanks?
That's fair.
Are you also contributing to taking the attention away from other players? But at the same time, he's too talented to just be used as a chess piece. Like
Yeah,
he
yeah.
should be at the
The
center.
Maverick.
And where my problem was with him against Fulham, and I said this, and obviously some people take it out of context, others understand, like what at least where I'm coming from when I say this. I'm not saying I'm right, but at least where I'm coming from. I felt like at the weekend against Fulham, he was instructed to stay central,
Mm.
but I also felt like it was on him at times to say, I ain't getting the ball here. And
Give it to me. Yeah,
yeah,
I said
give
the
it to
same
me.
thing. Give
And
it to me.
give it to me. And I'm not going to come and drop 15, 20 yards deeper to get it, but I'm going to go and get closer to Saka and I'm going to go and get closer to the left winger.
Just
And
when
I'm
you
going
see
to
my hair, give it to me.
try and pop up in those half spaces to get on the ball. And there was one instance in the second half where he did that. He made a sharp movement into that half space. He got the ball, he took a touch, and he played it through for Gyökeres. And Gyökeres' shot was blocked in the end. Nothing really
Mm.
came of it. But I was like, right, more of that now. More of that. And shortly after that, he was taken off. But I have been a bit underwhelmed by Eze. Even the other night, like at the beginning of the game, he was involved. And then his involvement just faded and
And
faded and
just, yeah,
faded.
after it felt like after that shot, he kind of just
Yeah. And
ignored the
I, and,
ball.
I, and I don't know if that's like, again, I'm not blaming him or Arteta. I don't know how much of it is instruction and how much of it is
Probably a
uh,
bit of everything.
him not being. So exactly, it feels like a kind of broader issue, and it's one that I think we need to get resolved.
And it's one, Harry, where for me as well, yeah, it's like and for what it's worth, I'm going to speak for myself and Harry. We still believe in Eze. We think he's been quality. We think he's been good. It's just there's more to come. I agree with everything you're saying. I think everybody knew when he signed for us that we'd have to adjust. Like you're not necessarily gonna see the Crystal Palace Eze because it's a different team, different dynamics,
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff. The way we're marked against is very different. But now I'm starting to feel, is it? is this always Eze? Like, there's more to come. Is this kind of Eze? Because, you know, the Eze I think I know, I'm not watching Crystal Palace week in, week out, but you know, you go on YouTube, you see a lot of mavericky things. I would say the only major criticism of Eze, like, these are what we've been talking about. For me, it's just one or two little minors, is you're too good not to get goals. I think I'm becoming accustomed to seeing you in goal scoring positions and you're not necessarily bagging. And that leads me to ask you the last question. Yeah, it's like, do you worry might not be the right word, because, you know, we're ticking over, we're scoring goals. You know, we tend to be one of the top goal scorers in the last 3 years. But when you look around our team, like you said, we're a great defensive team. Our defenders are actually scoring a lot of goals. You know, our potential players of the season so far, defenders. It's not that Gyökeres hasn't been good, like, because he's doing his thing, he's going to get more goals. It's not that we don't believe in Noni and, you know, all of the attackers. If I had to bet my hat on it right now, I still only fully trust Saka to get the numbers, if that makes sense to you, and maybe our defenders to chip in from set pieces. As you eloquently said on your platform, all the other players, it's not that you're bad, and I hope you can. I just don't know if you're going to score or be able to have that reliance from me that you're going to. Like, is that a worry? Because ultimately goals win games, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And that would be one of the things that I'm still wary about. Like, I don't know how many goals Eze's going to get over the course of the season. I don't know what Trossard's going to produce. I can't say with any certainty that Martinelli's going to continue this run. I can't say that Victor Gyökeres is going to get to 15, 20 league goals. I can't say any of that with certainty. I could say that those things are possible because all of those players have it within them. But that's my worry about Arsenal right now. If you ask me what was my one concern or worry, it's, can I rely on that attack yet? And I think that when you bring Havertz back in and when Jesus comes back, because I think Jesus will play some sort of role, by the way, between
I want to see him left wing
time and the end of the season. Yeah, why not? Like, I think when you've got more options, you can afford for the goals to be spread around, because if someone's not necessarily doing it, you've got other options and other ways of accommodating that. So I don't think we've been built in a way where we have an over-reliance on anyone, or at least that's the theory behind it. But Saka's so good, he's going to stick his head above the parapet and be the guy. Yeah, it is a worry. It is a worry. And the frustrating thing with Eze for me is that when we went up to Newcastle, I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch.
He was mustard, man.
And I thought he was great. And then I thought, right, now he's gonna really kick on in that position. And then when I heard of the Odegaard injury, I wasn't happy about it. But I was like, well, this is an opportunity now for Eze to play in his position and show what he can do. Yeah. And since then, I haven't really seen it. And so there is a bit of concern. Yeah, I have to say, like, again, it's not, I think he's rubbish and I don't think he's good enough and I'm going to write him off or anything like that.
There's more to come from you.
Just, yeah. And yeah, let's hope it comes sooner rather than later.
I know I said last question, but last question very quickly. Score prediction for Crystal Palace. I'm going 2-1 Arsenal, a nervy one, but we get there for 3 points.
I'm bricking it about this game just because
I'm scared, man. Mateta and that, I'm shook.
Yeah, I'm going to say 1-0 to the Arsenal, and I would bite your hand off for that. I just want 3 points. I don't care how they come. Set piece, bundled in, off of Saliba's backside, whatever. I don't care. You just get the 3 points on the board. It's important.
I'm with you with that, and I know it's a bit crude and rude, but I saw a comment on my channel today. Like, someone was like, "We need to start calling him Victor Gyökeres." I was like, flipping out. But fair enough, man. But yeah, man, Harry, it's always a pleasure. Again, people, make sure you're subscribing to Harry's platform. Make sure you're subscribing here. Go and check out the live stream we obviously did. Where can people find you, man? Because you're in a lot of places, you know. It's not just YouTube. You've got the audio stuff. You've got the Patreon page. Let us know, man.
Yeah, check out the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast. We do stream on YouTube all the episodes, but you can also find it on Apple and Spotify. You can check us out on Patreon as well. And yeah, just follow me on. I use Instagram more now, I would say, than X. Just Harry_Simu. And yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. Always a pleasure.
No, it's always a pleasure, H, man. And you know what? X is becoming a bit, it's just weird, isn't it? It's like we'll be here for too long talking about that platform in particular, man. I hate tweeting about that. I wouldn't say a troll, but I've just turned into entertaining nonsense, which it's not really for me, man. But yeah, man, Harry, it's always a pleasure speaking with Balanced Gooners. Hopefully in May we win a trophy. People, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And on that note, enjoy your day, your morning, your afternoon. We're out. Harry, bless, man. We'll do this again soon, man. In a bit.
Thank you, mate. Take care.
Come on. In a bit. You always just like,